Alrighty, friends, neighbors, loves one. I wanted to do a quick talk about oil changes, oil quality, conventional versus synthetic, and you only get what you pay for. So right off the hop, I can tell you, economy oil or budget oils, low cost oils give low performance, low expectations of good results. And really why I say that is because the oil is not refined the way it should be. The additive packs might not nearly be as good as they can be. Obviously, for a low cost oil, you're not going to get a synthetic. You're not going to get superior. You're just not going to get a superior product. And I think nowadays with today's engines, why that could be such a detriment. You know, I grew up, it was small block Ford, Chevy, Chryslers, inline sixes. I grew up in the carburetor era, you know, before all this variable valve timing and shutdown cylinders and all this stuff came into effect, or became, you know, the mainstream technology. And, you know, you put a decent conventional oil in your car and you got good results. And then along came emissions and other things that were attached. And I'm not an auto mechanic, so don't get me wrong, but I do know a little bit. And so they went into these you know, like catalytic converters and stuff like that, the honeycomb styles. And then they found out that, like, the add packs that were in the oils were affecting these components. So they started to have to reduce that, you know. And then along came roller cams, which, you know, back in our day, that was high performance racing stuff, and now it's in every motor going, right? So that got rid of sliding friction, so they reduced the amount of zinc in motor oil. So there's different things going on. So if you take today, if you take oil change, and you got to be very careful about not bumping them out too far, especially if you use low quality oil. And I've run into a couple of problems. I had a Chevy Cruze, took it in. I always ran AMSOIL in it. My daughter was driving around one day. She kept calling me, "Dad, the oil change light came on, the oil change warning came on." I said, you know, I'm at work. It's a Saturday. I'm working in the car parts plant. And I just told her, I said, you know what, take it in, get an oil change. So I go to the oil change store, and about, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks later, the turbo bit packs in. She's stuck at the parking lot on the mall. So I get it back, take the turbo system all apart, and the fuel line for the that feeds the oil to the turbochargers caked up, caked, packed with sludge, whatever, rock hard. I couldn't get MIG wire down it, so I took the bearing out of the turbo. So that was one time. And then I noticed there was sludge in the oil filter. So I don't know if that was the result from the motor oil that came from the economy lube place that does fast lubrication lube jobs. I don't know what, you know. I can only speculate. I didn't send the oil out for testing. I never had an issue with the car when I ran it, when I had it. I put 350,000 kilometers on that car, and then it was still running. We did another turbo, and that was the third turbo, because the second one was GM part faulted. Something happened with the oil drain back tube, and it burned the turbo up, or I can't remember what happened. And they replaced the turbo, they replaced it all. That was under warranty. That was at like 70,000 kilometers. And then this one went out to 200, I think it was 280, 90,000 kilometers. So I bought a turbo unit. The first one I tried was, what's that part company that you get all the stuff from? The cheap stuff. It's got a name, everybody buys it. Anyway, I put it in and it was locked solid. It wouldn't even work. Took it off, sent it back. Parts Avatar was amazing. To give me my money back, it was like $650 to give it back to me, no issues. Bought a GM one. I was on vacation, so I had a buddy mechanic of mine. He threw it in there, and it was good. It was golden. And we drove the car until it sprung a bad oil leak, and I said, you know what, I'm tired of fixing this thing. It was pretty beat up by then. I mean, she beat it up, I beat it up, and we just junked it. Getting on to get back to this newer stuff. I run AMSOIL. You guys know that. You guys see that in my videos. Because in the race cars that when we were racing circle track, we pounded engines on the red line constantly, all night long. Pounding the car on the red line. And the oil held up. The oil did its job. We had cooling issues. You know, wrecked the front end and then the car is overheating. The oil never laid us down. We never suffered anything. We watched all these cars at one track burn out the rear gears. Ours had a momentary, when the car stopped coming off the track, the rear end locked for a second. And it was all due to heat. All the heat took the clearance out of all the taper bearings in the rear end. We ran 4 9-inch rear ends. And we had to pull the axles out because they're full floating rear end. Pull the axle out, put it in the trailer. We pushed it in. We get it to the shop the next morning. I got her up on stands, and I go to turn the drive shaft. The drive shaft spins. No problem, no issues. So it was a heat lockup. I pulled the third member out, ripped it all down. It was fine. I could have put it all back together. Like we could have just let it cool off. I mean, that oil did. Everybody else, I mean, they burned up rear ends. Like they had the metallic oatmeal pour out of them. And we always use the AMSOIL product. I guess you could arguably say any synthetic's going to give you the same performance. Probably will, right? But quality oil gives you quality results. I do know that I get better gas mileage when I do run the AMSOIL as when you compare it to like GM dealer installed oil, the Dexo stuff. But that being said, the cost difference, probably $15 a liter, 8 liters, and then the filter. So we're looking at $160 for an oil change. I get about one kilometer less per 100. So I mean, it doesn't mathematically, it doesn't work to the advantage of money-wise comparing to fuel savings. But you have to think, well, if I'm saving fuel, that means I'm burning less fuel. That means there's less friction. Now the friction could be fluid friction. I don't think it's metal on metal. You wouldn't get the longevity. The 03 Silverado we had with the 4.8 V8 in it, we towed the race car trailer with the race car and everything all over with that truck, and I sold it at 440,000 kilometers, towing a 22-foot trailer with a race car in it, 3,500-pound race car inside the 3,500-pound trailer with all the gear in it, and we were maxed out on weight. And so I got 440. So, I mean, you can look at different guys. Like you look at Project Farm. He does some wonderful testing, but the testing I do is the testing of time and longevity. Real world testing. How it works in the vehicle. I know for a fact that it doesn't freeze like a regular or cheaper semi-synthetic blends and all that stuff. It just, cold weather performance, it's bar none. And then the only caveat to that is cold weather, you don't want to short run the motor, because there's no oil around that's going to put up with all the it's going to put up with all that condensation that generates from short trip motors in extremely cold weather. I live in an area that it is extremely cold. Well, it's cold, and short trip in the motors, you're going to get that white in the dipstick, you're going to get the white in the oil cap, and that leads to sludging, and good luck, because, you know, variable valve timing solenoids, that cylinder shutdowns and the GMs, timing chains, all that stuff's going to suffer. You wrap a timing chain in sludgy oil, how's the lubricant going to get in there to keep it lubed? So you're just asking for trouble. So I know AMSOIL promotes itself as longevity, long-term oil changes, 25,000 miles for the Signature Series, and in the car that we have Terrain with a turbo in it. I don't think I'm going to push it out that far, but like I said, for the extra insurance, I don't care. I'll change it when the computer tells me to change it. But that being said, sorry, we're just going to look at it as, you know, this is just a quick blurb. I don't have any content going because we're frozen solid still, and we're waiting for the warm weather. The 3 days of minus 12, 14, and they can't get anything done. So I just thought I'd give you guys a quick rundown because I'm getting a lot of comments in the oil change videos, and if you care, that's the information I can give you. Cheap oil changes gives you cheap performance. Quality oil change, quality products gives you quality performance. It's your car, it's your money, you make the decision. But I'll tell you, if you think you're gonna save a buck, oil changes ain't the place to do it. You know what I mean? Buy economy shock absorbers or economy brake pads, whatever, if you want to save. But don't cheap out on oil changes. It's highly, highly, highly important. Use the good stuff and change it when you know you should. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll sign off, and remember, the channel needs your help to be here. So subscribe, ring the bell, hit the like button, and come back off. We'll see you soon.